I wrote an op-ed piece in the Boston Globe, described my view that I am pro-life, described why I had changed to become pro-life. I recognize it's a change. You can find many instances of my indicating my position previous to that time of being effectively pro-choice. I didn't call myself pro-choice, but my position was effectively pro-choice, and that position changed.
That was Republican presidential nominee Mitt Romney the last time he was running for president, speaking on Meet the Press. Abortion was not an outsized issue in that last election the way that it is this year, but even then, Mr. Romney had some trouble explaining what he meant about it.
I didn't call myself pro-choice, but my position was effectively pro-choice, and that position changed.
What exactly is Mitt Romney's position on abortion rights? Well, here is what he says about it when he talks about it now, this year, in this election. This is just a couple of weeks ago.
I'm in favor of abortion being legal in the case of rape and incest and the health and life of the mother.
Okay, abortion should only be allowed rape, incest, health and life of the woman. At least he said it clearly there, right? Or not. After that interview, the Romney campaign said that actually Mr. Romney does not believe abortion should be allowed to preserve a woman's health. Quoting NPR here, the Romney campaign won't say the candidate misspoke, but a spokeswoman does say he does not support an exception to protect the health of the pregnant woman. Except, wait.
I'm in favor of abortion being legal in the case of rape and incest and the health and life of the mother.
Mitt Romney does not believe that thing he just said. Did he misspeak? No, he did not misspeak. But we want to be clear that he does not believe what he said he believes. But it was not a misstatement. 4 years after my position has changed from the thing that wasn't really my position, Mitt Romney is still devolving into incoherence when he tries to explain his own views on abortion rights. I mean, he's fine with bumper sticker simple statements, but any further effort to explain just goes horribly wrong. I mean, honestly, this NPR statement about the CBS interview is that he does not believe what he said he believes. And it wasn't a misstatement. How does that make sense? But this kind of thing has turned out to be the kind of problem that a lot of Republican candidates have had this year. I mean, thanks to Todd Akin and his fairy tale legitimate rape science theory about using sexual assault as a form of birth control, thanks to Todd Akin, the media and voters are asking Republican candidates to really explain what they think precisely about abortion rights. Republicans are really going after abortion rights in the states, and Republican candidates are getting a lot of hard questions about it, and even follow-up questions. And that is new. Republicans are used to having this political field all to themselves. Dealing with this issue usually for them means just talking to true believers who want to push them further and further and further to the right on this issue. They've really only ever faced questions on abortion rights from people who want them to be even more extreme on the issue. Because Democrats have traditionally been shy about talking about this issue in most election years, Republicans just aren't used to having to explain themselves to anybody who doesn't already agree with them on the issue. They almost never face mainstream media questions on abortion rights. They certainly don't face political opponents' questions on abortion rights. But that is no longer true. This year, many Republicans are getting follow-up questions on this for the first time, and it is not going well. From vice presidential nominee Paul Ryan, who's trying to explain forcing rape victims to bear their rapist children, and his efforts with Todd Akin to redefine rape, even as he criticizes Todd Akin for his efforts to redefine rape. Goes all the way down the ticket, though. The Republican House and Senate candidates are having similar problems. Just in the last week or so, we've seen new Todd Akins cropping up in races all over the country. Tom Smith is running for U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania. He's the Republican nominee for Senate. Here's what happened when an AP reporter asked Tom Smith a follow-up question or two about his position on abortion rights.
In cases of incest or rape, abortion should not be. No exception. No exception.
Well, how would you tell a daughter or a granddaughter who God forbid would be the victim of a rape to keep the child against her own will? Is that something that you would? I mean, do you have a way to explain that?
I lived something similar to that with my own family. She chose life, and I commend her for that. She knew my views, but fortunately for me, I didn't have to. She chose the way I thought. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't rape. She did.
Similar how?
Having a baby criticism. But I'm back to the I'm pro-life, period.
Republican U.S. Senate candidate from Pennsylvania. His name is Tom Smith. Him explaining why getting pregnant outside of marriage is just like getting raped. Put yourself in a father's position. Oh, and also the government should force you to carry that pregnancy to term either way, no matter what you want. Vote for me in November. Tom Smith, his name is. Then there's Rick Berg. He's running for the U.S. Senate seat in North Dakota. He's the Republican nominee for Senate there. This week, the folks at BuzzFeed reported on an anti-abortion bill that Rick Berg voted for in the state legislature there. It would criminalize abortion to the tune of life in prison for violators, including victims of rape and incest. The bill doesn't just classify abortion as a felony punishable by life in prison. It also essentially defines a fertilized egg as a person, which means even some forms of birth control could become felonies punishable by life in prison. So use an IUD, life in prison for you. In vitro fertilization, life in prison for you. And that includes rape victims and incest victims. And then there is Congressman Roscoe Bartlett running for re-election in the great state of Maryland. Roscoe Bartlett has served 10 terms in Congress, but this year, thanks to redistricting, he is not running in a super safe district for the first time since he first won the seat in 1992. This year, Roscoe Bartlett really has to campaign hard to hold on to this seat, which is why it is not a great time for him to be faced with follow-up questions about his anti-abortion policies that he's not used to talking about with anybody who doesn't agree with him on the subject. But that's exactly what happened at a town hall last week that went very bad very quickly.
There are very few pregnancies as a result of rape, fortunately, and incest.
So you agree with that?
Compared to the usual abortion, what is the percentage of abortions to rape? It is tiny. It is a tiny, tiny percentage.
There's 20,000 pregnancies every year from rape.
Yeah, and how many abortions? In the millions.
That's 20,000 rapes. That's 20,000 people who are violated.
Yeah, I know.
That's a lot. That's 20,000 too many.
Percentage of pregnancy, percentage of abortions for rape as compared to overall abortions, it's a tiny, tiny percentage.
And incest is quite high too, believe me. In Appalachia, we sell that on a daily basis.
Yeah. But again, it's a tragedy for the family and the person, but in terms of actual numbers, it's a pretty small percentage of the total number.
Unless you're the one.
20,000 women a year. Congressman Roscoe Bartlett doing his best Todd Akin impersonation with some of his constituents. He's facing a hard re-election effort already. Republicans' ability to answer questions and follow-up questions on women's reproductive health rights is a skill that has atrophied. Republicans simply do not have all that much ability to take criticism from the center or from objective people or from people who are not activists on their side of this issue. This campaign season, when Mitt Romney has agreed to interviews, he has mostly agreed to them on the condition that they are conducted by the Fox News channel. I don't know why, but that's mostly how it's been. But this Sunday, Mitt Romney is appearing for the first time in nearly 3 years on Meet the Press. He's going back to Meet the Press. And if his answers to basic follow-up questions about his positions stay as incoherent as they have been on this issue, he could be in for some trouble. Do tell.